Good afternoon. This is Dawn Taylor. Let me turn my earrings around so y'all can see them. Look at that. Look at that. Bling, bling. Look at that. Okay. Anyway, because they was looking anyway. It'll make sense in a minute. We're going to bring that up. It's going to make sense in a minute. Ignore my tired eyes. I work overnights. I'm sleepy. Okay, so we on this daily devotional. All right. I'm going to give y'all scripture. We're going to break down some facts to the scripture. We're going to chit chat, talk about it. We're going to lay it out there. We're going to get off and take a nap. That's the point of the day. So Colossians 3, verse 12 says, since God chose you to be the holy people he loves, you must clothe yourself with tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Okay. Now, I rarely read scripture just like one verse or something. I always stress to people, like, you got to read the whole chapter. You got to read the chapter before, the chapter after. You got to dig into the word and like actually get the context of what's going on instead of just pulling verses out and trying to run with them like, ooh, that sounds cute. That must mean this. That's probably talking about that. That's probably talking about this. Like, you got to get the whole context. Okay. Again, this is Colossians 3. So go read you some Colossians 3. I did pull out that verse, and we're going to run with what it does talk about, what it does say, just that one specific verse, but I would encourage you to read the whole chapter so it can mean a little bit more to you, so it can dig in a little bit more to you, have a little more meat to it. I did choose that verse because I was thinking about intentionality. Me and my sister recently was having a conversation about intentionality, living and parenting with intention. My son, one of my sons, I have 10 kids altogether, 5 girls, 5 boys, 9 I brought into this world. And out of those 5 boys, I have one that has a long list of diagnoses, and we talk about it a lot. So he's fully aware. He's 15 and a half, going to be 16 this year. And she was mentioning that she uses him as a reference when she is talking to someone about like the change, the difference, the growth that happens when you have these certain diagnoses, and that, you know, how it can, there's a rainbow, right? There is a pot of gold on the other end. There's a rainbow in the middle of the storm. There's a promise. There's another side to what you're going through. And I myself have used it, that his journey several times to iterate the fact that how there is something on the other side of situations, right? Okay, so, but the thing that when we were talking about this, that I was stressing to her was like, that's because there was intention. There was purposeful planning and intention and thoughts in parenting and cultivating and creating the young man that we see today. Some of the diagnosis that my son has is autism, which came later, but was always there. And from birth, he is number 6. And so he's born number 6, but he is now been scooted out of the way because of the daughter that my husband has brought into my life. She is now chronologically number 6, but he was born number 6 to me. So I already knew about newborns. I knew about breastfeeding. I knew about like how they work. Sorry. I knew all these different things. And so I was already prepared, right? I was already used to like the different techniques and the different things that you can do to get them to nurse, to get them to latch on, how you have to teach them, you groom them, you cultivate them, you let them learn stuff because it's a skill. It's not something they're born knowing how to do. It's a skill that you have to teach them. Okay, so during that process in the hospital, when he was only within hours of being born, the process was different for him. As soon as my kid's pulling up, as soon as I attempted to latch him, his body would like tense up, it would freeze up, it would get real hard and flexed. He would like, plank basically. He would and it would be like only a certain position could I nurse him in would he latch. Anything else made his whole body just like get rigid. He couldn't deal even as an infant. And I watched for the next year as different things just affected him a certain way, and almost like a reflex, he couldn't deal with certain things that touched his skin, certain things that was around him, sunlight, feeling wet, feeling something around his face, on his hands. It would cause him to have like a total meltdown, a total breakdown, a total freak out, and things of that nature. And so I knew something was different, obviously. I didn't think he was just rowdy. I didn't think he was just, needed more discipline. I didn't think that he would just had, like was spoiled, all that kind of stuff. I knew there was something going on. And no matter what other people said, I knew there was something else going on. Now, he wasn't diagnosed with anything until he was about 3. But before he was even diagnosed with that, I did research. I paid attention to his symptoms. I paid attention to the things he was doing. I started putting those in search engines, like this, just exactly what he was doing. And I started pulling up different stuff. And it wasn't much back then. He was born in 2007. So there wasn't much information on things then, but there was one website that kept coming up that had information about sensory processing disorder integration issues, which is what they referred to it then. Sensory integration issues. And I kept digging through that stuff, reading through that stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what he's got going on. This is some of the stuff he's doing, blah, blah, blah. And I just kept soaking up more and more information. I've always been this type of parent, though. Like from the first child, my oldest, from the first child that I had, the first child that I was, pregnant with. As soon as I found out I was pregnant with her, I was reading pamphlets, I was reading magazines, I was reading books. I was finding out exactly how babies grow, exactly how babies are born, exactly what your body does, how you're supposed to care for them, what you're supposed to do when they do this thing, and what they're supposed to do with that. I used to have this big old fat manual. It was called a portable doctor or something like that, and there was this chick that wrote it, and she'd write down all these different symptoms, and she'd correlate it and tell you like, this is what it could be, and this is what you do for it, and blah 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 blah. So I was just that's just who I am. I'm very geeky that way, and you can ask anybody that knows me well. I'm gonna research anything and everything. So there was intention from the get-go with how I parented him. I did not just go, let's just do stuff and see what happens. Let's just react to the situation. Let's just like, when he throws a fit, whatever I was feeling in the moment, whatever's going on in my head, let's just do that and see if that helps. There was a specific plan There was constant changes to that plan. There was constant, going back to the drawing board. There was constant altering and fixing and adding information in and seeking other people and everything like that. Because a matter of fact, all his diagnosis and the roadmap, because what I tell people is having a diagnosis when you're a Christian, when you're faith-based, when you're a believer is not weak. It's not broken faith. It's not altered faith. It's not disobedience. It's not rebellion to the things of God. It is a roadmap for where you're going and what you're doing. God creates us intentionally. He creates us as a reflection of who he is, a part of his image, and God himself seeks out things on purpose. He puts together things, people, situations with intention, on purpose. He did not create Adam out of mistake or out of a big bang. He didn't slip over something, knock something else over, and there goes Adam. He didn't do anything in this universe. He hasn't created anything. He had specific plans for everything, how we develop, how our lives go on course, like what happens. Now we have free will, which again was a part of his design in his plan. But he still continues to have providence in what we're doing and choices for us so that we can have a plan and we can go specifically and we can be intentional. Okay? Nothing done in our universe, our own specific world, our own specific thing is by accident. We have accidents that happen, but they're not done by accident. They still produce certain certain plans, like certain orders. You know what I mean? Like we all have loved ones that have died because living is dying. That's just facts. And sometimes it's easier to ease our minds and our grief to be like, it just happened. Like it's just whatever, because it sounds so evil and morbid, and to feel like somebody or a greater like creator would intentionally and purposefully take our loved one away from us in our lives. We've all experienced traumas to some degree, because that's what life is. That's what this world is. It's traumatic. We've all experienced traumas to some degree. So to think that those traumas are intentional and purposeful and serve a meaning and a reason and whatever sounds cruel and evil. To be like, that happened to you on purpose? God sat back and let that happen to you? I thought he's supposed to be a good God, but he let that happen to you? He purposefully made your kid like that? He purposefully made those challenges on you? He purposefully made, you have to go through that grief. You go through that horrible action, that horrible whatever. And it's like, yeah. But it's not in that same evil way. It's in the way of the fact that, again, people have free will. There is sin out here. So there's people out here who are in sin. And they got the same free will that we got, who believe that we're following God the right way. There's still sin out here. So folks is doing evil stuff. Evil things are happening. Horrible atrocities are happening. Yes, because sin is horrible and atrocious. Yes, it is. When you're lying about what you're going to do for your kid in their birthday so they can shut up and stop talking to you, that is just as atrocious as some warlord in a third world country cutting down, babies and mamas for his own benefit and gain. or to run drugs or something. Because sin is atrocious. Sin is atrocious. And therefore, we have to be intentional about the life we choose to live and how we do it. God is intentional about how he created us and what he has for us. And we have to be intentional. And I don't know, like for me, how I understand things is no matter what atrocities happen in my life, God's grace and mercy is still in the midst of it, making it a tolerable situation. That's just how I see it. I see the rainbow in it all. In all the storms. I see the rainbow in all the storms. And that's maybe the reason why I see it like that is because I have made a lot of stupid choices. I've sat up in sin in a lot of ways. I've opened myself up for demonic influences and to be in their playground and things of that nature. And I've also done the steps and the fights for the good fight and everything like that. So I've seen the battle. I've been in the battle. I've seen both sides. I've seen how it plays out. I see the choices, because God gives us that choice. He says, I laid out choices for you for good and evil, and like, make your choice. Make your choice for good. Make your choice for life. I've laid out your plans, life and death. Make your choice for life. Here, Adam and Eve, here's the trees. Don't eat of that one, because you will surely die. But here's your choices. I would suggest you avoid that one, because you will surely die. But here's your choices. Okay, we're going to compare this in a minute.